Welcome back to the Bee's Business for another children's literature review. I created this series on my channel a couple of months ago. My goal in creating this series is to help fellow educators and parents find titles in children's literature that are inspirational, motivational, educational, or a combination of these. In order to keep my reviews consistent on my channel, I follow the same 5, sometimes 6-step review process. Today I am reviewing for you Brave Girl, Clara and the Shirtwaist Makers' Strike of 1909, written by Michelle Markel and illustrated by Melissa Sweet. In this biography we learn about Clara Lemlich. She played an important role in helping to reform labor laws in factories in the early 1900s. She was especially focused on making improvements for women who are experiencing these working conditions. Clara Lemlich and her family came to America as immigrants. When they originally arrived, they could speak hardly any English at all. After arriving here in America, it was very challenging for her father to find work. Clara had a very different experience, however. While Clara's father struggled to find a job, Clara did not. There were many factories that were willing to hire her and other young girls like herself, paying minimal wages and forcing them to work in harsh conditions. Clara took a job at a factory making women's clothing and earning just a few dollars a month. She was still very motivated to pursue an education. She was so motivated despite the long days that she spent at the factory. At the end of her shift, though her eyes hurt from straining in the gaslight and her back hurt from hunching over the sewing machine, she walked to the library. And after filling her hungry belly with a single glass of milk, sleeping for just a few hours, she was right back at it the next morning, heading off to the factory to do work for many hours during the day, and then resuming trying to learn new information in the evening hours. In time, Clara makes friends at the factory where she works, and she and the other girls share lunch together and stories as well. It is around this time that some of the men in the factory let Clara know that they're trying to form a union, but they don't think that the women would be strong enough to join. And with those words, Clara decides she and the other women in the factory are going to help make change. Clara and some of the other factory workers are able to form a strike. Being involved in these strikes is not easy. Each time Clara leads a walkout, the bosses fire her. Each time she pickets, her life is in danger. The bosses hire men to beat her and the other strikers. The police arrest her 17 times. They break 6 of her ribs, but they can't break her spirit. It's shatterproof. And despite her efforts and the efforts of others, the strike is not making any lasting changes. So they decide they need to think bigger. They need to organize a larger strike. This is when the union holds a meeting that is well attended. Despite there being a large collection of people, change doesn't seem to be any closer in sight, and Clara is noticing this as speaker after speaker gets up and not one of them is recommending a general strike. So she takes matters into her own hands and she gets up to speak. This is one of my favorite pages in the text because it is so moving. Clara calls out from the front of the hall. The crowd lifts her to the stage where she shouts in Yiddish, "I have no further patience for talk. I move that we go on a general strike," and she starts the largest walkout of women workers in U.S. history. And with that, people are finally taking notice. Newspapers write stories about them, college girls raise money for them, rich women, swathed in fur coats, picket with the factory girls. And by the time the strike is over, hundreds of bosses agree to let their staff form unions. They shorten the work week and raise salaries. The strike emboldens thousands of women to walk out of garment factories in Philadelphia and Chicago. And the strike convinces Clara to keep fighting for the rights of workers. Her throat is hoarse, her feet are sore, but she has helped thousands of people, proving that in America, wrongs can be righted. Warriors can wear skirts and blouses, and the bravest hearts may beat in girls only 5 feet tall. After reading that page, I was feeling a whole lot of empowerment myself. And in the very back of the text, there is some additional information that is shared about the garment industry. Some of the facts that really stood out to me in this section of the book were that of the workers in 1909, 80% were female, 70% were between 16 and 25 years of age, and 65% were Russian or Eastern European Jewish. Abuses were rampant throughout the industry. Many bosses shaved time off lunch hours, set clocks back at the end of the day to fool the workers, made them work long hours, including illegal evening work for little money, forced them to pay for cloth soiled with blood or spilled food, and fired them at will. Some factories hired girls as young as 6 years old to cut threads from garments. The first word that came to mind after I finished reading this text was whoa. Wow. I knew of the things that occurred in factories and I knew of the working conditions, but this author very effectively brought me to the factories and made me feel as though I was right there with Clara, walking through this experience with her and seeing firsthand what she and other girls were experiencing. Prior to finding this text on the shelf of a local thrift store recently, I had never heard of Clara or this particular strike. I feel a bit ashamed that I didn't know anything prior to this before now, but I'm very thankful that I came across this text, and I'm now going to be able to share it with not only my children, but also my students. Biographies are among some of my favorite texts because I feel like the educational element that they offer can be, when done well, such an asset to young learners. I really enjoyed this text. I enjoyed the way that it was written, I enjoyed the illustrations, and I enjoyed the amount of information that was shared with the reader. I feel like this text is appropriate for a variety of age levels, and though there are some difficult topics brought up, the author does a nice job of touching upon them enough to make an impression, but also not diving so deep that it now becomes not so appropriate for our youngest readers. I am specifically referencing this page here, where it is discussed that she was arrested and beaten and experienced broken bones in her efforts to strike. The facts are there because facts are facts, but they are facts that are appropriate to, again, get that message across, but not create enough mental distress that the text is no longer appropriate for a variety of age levels. The images also show the information in a way that is gentle enough for even little learners. Something I really love about this text is how immersive all of the illustrations are. For example, on many pages you will see stitching and sections of fabric that literally and figuratively tie the story together. I really enjoy the way that the author and illustrator bring this story full circle. On the first page we see Clara and her family arriving in America, and the Statue of Liberty is a prominent figure. And on the final page of the story we see Clara looking out at the same Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty stands for freedom, and it's quite symbolic that Clara is standing here looking out at it on this final page after she has created quite a bit of freedom for workers in factories. I am enthusiastically rating this text a 10 out of 10. I do not have any constructive criticism for this text. I deeply appreciate the message the author is sharing with her readers, and I also appreciate the way that she has shown this in a gentle but appropriate way so that we are still feeling the impact of these challenges that Clara and others went through, but feeling it in a way that is not so encompassing or overpowering that it is no longer a read that would be appropriate for any age level. I hope that if you had also not previously heard of Clara Lemlich, that you now feel empowered to share with others around you and spread her story. While this story is focused on an event that happened over 100 years ago, I still think it's relevant to today. I can see this text being very beneficial for all young girls out there. Something that is all too common is that our younger population of girls question themselves, and they don't feel good enough. And this is a text that is showing that Clara came with grit, and she did not give up, even when things stood in her way. And I think this is a great reminder of all that women and girls can accomplish in this world. I hope that you found this review beneficial. If you are looking for this text, be sure to check the comments section where I will have a link to it on Amazon so you can purchase it if you'd like. Also, if you're enjoying this review series, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future reviews I create and produce. Be sure to give this video a like, leave a comment. It really helps my channel and helps me to be able to continue to create reviews like this for you. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!